Alrighty. Well, we can go ahead and kick this off. For anyone who might be coming in late or couldn't make it today, we are recording today's session. So you'll get a recap email with this deck that we're about to walk through. It's got some helpful links, some information about all the topics we're going to be discussing, and then this recording as well. So all of that will come to you and anyone who might have missed today's session. So no worries there. Um, So today we're going to welcome you to our training webinar series. We'll talk a little bit of housekeeping about this series, what you can expect. But just want to say a quick thank you so much for joining us. This is kind of a revised version of, if you guys remember, a couple of years ago we had a similar program. And so we're really excited to bring it back and to take this opportunity to educate people about the little nuggets within Ambition and ways you can continue to get value from the tool. So excited to kick it off today, and thank you for joining. And Matt, thanks for being my co-host today.
Absolutely.
Um,
Excited to be here. Thanks everyone for joining.
awesome. So today's topic is leaderboard. So me and Matt are going to walk you through a couple different ways where you and your teams can be the leaderboard experts. So excited to dive into that fun feature. And then we're going to take a few moments to talk about December's product releases, and then we'll open the floor to Q&A. So feel free to, as we go through, use the chat, use the Q&A section of Zoom. We'll be monitoring it. If you have questions along the way as we go through leaderboards or all the topics, you can ask us questions in real time, or when we get to the Q&A portion at the end, we can open up the floor to anything ambition related, and we'd love to hear what topics or questions you'd want to dive into today. So here's your ambition team for today. We've got Matt right here, who is our manager of implementation and pilots. Matt, you want to introduce yourself, where you're from, and if you have set any 2025 New Year's goals or resolutions.
Yeah, great topic for our first webinar and the first of the new year here. I am Matt. So like Emma said, I work with all of our customers who go through pilots and many of our customers that have already gone through implementations. I'm helping you guys get set up with Ambition. I'm based in Chattanooga, Tennessee. For As far as resolutions go, I'm really focused on being active every single day is really my goal. I have put off this goal of running a marathon for years and years. So I'm not exactly saying 2025 is the year for a marathon, but it starts small. So every day getting outside, doing something active, and so far going strong with daily walks with my wife. So 7 days in and we're doing good. Will it be a marathon? Maybe we'll find out in a future webinar. We'll see how it goes.
Love it. Good luck continuing those outdoor walks this weekend. It's going to get really cold in
So
Tennessee.
cold. Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much, Matt. And I'm Emma Hamilton. I manage our customer success team. I'm located in Nashville, Tennessee. I've been with Ambition almost 6 years. Um, so seeing a lot of familiar faces popping in, attending this webinar, and I love it. One of my resolutions or goals for the year is to try new recipes. I love to cook. I'm vegetarian, so I have to get a little creative in the kitchen. But I already tried this new tofu stir fry recipe that was a hit in my house. So off to a good start there too. Um, Great. So again, a little bit of housekeeping about what we're doing here. This is going to be a monthly series covering popular ambition topics, really aiming to help you and your teams become ambition experts. Um, these sessions are open to everyone. So if you have colleagues or anyone that you think would benefit from joining, we'd love to have them. So by registering and attending today, you're actually already registered for all of the future sessions within this series. So no need to re-register. They should come to you on your calendar via email, the links to join. But if you have colleagues or anyone that you think would benefit from joining future sessions, share the link with them. We'd love to have them for future sessions. And with that being said, our next session is February the 4th at 3 p.m. Central. And we've got Nolan and Kelly are going to take you through the metrics tab. We've got the registration link again here. Like I said, this deck will go out to you guys in a recap email. So you'll have this registration link to share out. But yeah, metrics tab, good stuff. So they're going to be diving into all the tips and tricks and need to know there. But for today's topic, we are going to talk about becoming a leaderboard expert. And we've got 5 parts of ambition where you can leverage leaderboards that me and Matt are going to take turns diving into. And like I said, this deck we're going to send out. So I'm not going to go through all the slides, but we do have slides for everything that we're going to talk about today, along with links to documentation, all of our help notes. So that will be shared out. But I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that Matt can share and go over the first two areas of the tool where you can use leaderboards.
Awesome. Thank you, Emma. Let me get shared up here. And like Emma kind of said, the hope of these trainings is that these become materials that you all can go back to time and time again whenever you need a refresh on how to access and use best some of these features of Ambition. So diving into leaderboards today, at a high level, why do we use leaderboards? That is the bread and butter of a gamification tool and the gamification aspects of Ambition. So when we think about shouting out reps for doing a great job, for knowing when reps are, behind the eight ball on certain metrics, leaderboards can be your best friend, and they're super easy to use. So a great 101 kind of topic for using Ambition. We are looking at a demo instance today, so some metrics and things might be familiar with how you use Ambition, but definitely use your imagination on how you can apply some of these topics and things we're going to show you today to your use case for Ambition. And if you're here with us today, drop things into the Q&A and we'd be happy to answer them. So to get started, the very first way to access leaderboards in Ambition, by far the easiest way to do it, is to head over to the left-hand navigation where we have all of the features in Ambition listed. This might look a little different from your instance, just depending on what features your team uses. And we can head to the Leaderboards tab. Where else should we start when talking about leaderboards besides the Leaderboards tab? So as this loads, this is going to be the fastest way to get a leaderboard for your reps. Right away, whenever we land on the Leaderboards tab in Ambition, we are automatically filtered to activity scores for all reps in Ambition for today. Now, of course, the activity score requires you guys have a scorecard built up. I am sure that that's a topic we'll tackle in a future webinar. But if you have activity scores set up through your scorecard, that's what you'll see here right away. And so without needing to change anything at all, we're seeing that activity score leaderboard for all reps in this instance of Ambition. And we can quickly filter with a few pre-built buttons here in the top left to, instead of looking at today, to check out activity scores for other timeframes like yesterday and last week. And so we can jump to those very quickly and automatically change those filters here. Now, let's say you don't necessarily want to see a leaderboard for activity scores. You want to explore other metrics in your Ambition instance and view them on the leaderboard. We can come to this top right-hand corner and find filters. And the world is your oyster here. So any metric you have in Ambition, you can build a leaderboard for that, as well as any time frame. So we have some pre-built timeframes around single days like today and yesterday. You can also see rolling timeframes for week, month, and quarter. And we include the actual dates that those are corresponding to in Ambition. But something to always keep in mind is we can do custom. So you can always look at any time frame you want for a leaderboard and any metric that has been built out. I'm going to go ahead and use our handy dandy create saved filter tool here to create a scenario. Let's say we are an SDR leader. And what we care about, while we do want to see activity scores, I really want to know, where is my team pacing on their calls for this week? Our SDRs are on the phone all the time. That's our number one activity metric. Let's build a quick leaderboard to look at something like calls for this week and save that, so that way every time we come to this leaderboards tab, we can grab that pretty quickly. So I'm going to grab calls. Again, these are dummy metrics just built for this demo, but whatever metrics you guys have in your instance can be used in a leaderboard. Let's add calls to that metric section here, change it to this week. And right away, we're starting to see those changes happen automatically behind the scenes here. We can rank a few different ways in Ambition, and we'll walk through these different ways to rank leaderboards in the TV section, which is coming up. But what we're going to do for this example is keep it at value. That's going to show you the metric value. So we're looking at calls. This is the number of calls for the time frame that we've selected. Now, I mentioned I am an SDR leader, so I really don't want to see the AEs or any other team members on this leaderboard. So I'm going to get a little bit more filtered in here. For type, we're going to leave it at employee. Anytime we want to see a rep by rep leaderboard, we're going to live on this employee section in the type dropdown. But you can also filter these leaderboards by groups. So if you had competition teams set up and you wanted to see how the blue versus the red team fall on calls, or your different locations, Boston versus Chattanooga, you can find those different settings here and choose those instead of employee. But by staying on employee and finding a specific group down here in my group section, like the SDR role, I can actually filter this leaderboard. You see it changing back here to show me just SDRs. So now we have SDRs this week for the calls metric, and I want to save this so that way I can see it every week. And I'm going to call this something like SDR call leaders this week. And so all that work that I've done to set up these filters, I can hit save right here. And now every time I come back to the leaderboards tab, although I'll always land on that activity scores for today by default, I can come to saved filters and grab any existing filter that I've already saved. You can see this other example that we've saved in the past for something like AE revenue for this month. So no limits to how many of those filters you can build. That's the best way to get a very fast leaderboard on the metrics that you care about the most. So be thinking about what metrics, what timeframes matter the most that you want to see on a snap of a finger, and come to the saved filters and build those out. So this tab is the fastest way to use leaderboards in Ambition. What I want to jump to next is the most fun way. And this, of course, can be shared out from this leaderboards tab by copying and pasting this URL, sharing that with your team. But when it comes to sharing leaderboards out with your reps, with other leaders on the team, the best and most fun way to do that is through the Ambition TV. So I'm going to jump to a couple examples of some pre-built TV slides where we're seeing those leaderboards here. This looks like some AEs being ranked by their revenue numbers for the month. And this is, again, that value ranking. But we can see some other creative ways to rank team members and view them on a leaderboard here, where we're actually viewing the most active SDRs. And you can see some negative numbers here that are actually comparing the call values for these reps to the previous time frame. So we'll take a look at how to build that in just a second. And we'll also see ways to, instead of just show the number of calls, add context to what that means. Emily Cunningham has 75 calls today. Well, based on her activity scorecard that we have built, that means she's at 94% of her calls for today. So some creative ways you guys can tweak these leaderboards. But let's jump into how we actually set this up in a TV and walk through getting these leaderboard slides in a place where you can share them. And at Ambition, we call these TVs, but the reality is they are just a URL. You can see this URL link up here. They are great for in-office teams, showing these on a leaderboard in your sales floors, but they can be accessed anywhere. So to the remote teams out there, you can use these links wherever you're at, and you can even use them as slide decks for weekly stand-ups with your team, maybe monthly numbers readouts with your leadership. You can build these slides to quickly and automatically refresh behind the scenes. So you can just grab that link and share it with your team. Cool. So let's jump into what it looks like when you're building a leaderboard. Now, I've taken a shortcut here to this tab I already have opened, but to get to your TV section and edit it, on the left-hand side, we can head into TVs and select whatever TVs you have already built. If you don't have a TV, super easy to set up. You'll click Create New TV. Just give it a display name and a URL name, and then you are ready to start building that TV, and your URL link will be ready to go. In this example, we've already got a leaderboard built here. This is the one I showed you of the AEs ranked by revenue. Every time you build a leaderboard in a TV, it's going to look the same. You're going to have 4 sections to walk through. Section 1, we're choosing things like the name of this slide. The type is always going to be leaderboard, since that's what we're building today. But you can tweak some things in the TV. I know we'll have a future session on TV, so don't want to get too in the weeds here, but changing things like how long this leaderboard is on the TV slide before it rotates to the next slide. you can pre-schedule these slides to appear or be removed from your TVs. And you can always edit some of the background images for those TV slides. So just some customization around the TV aspect of it. But getting into the meat of building a leaderboard is in this section number 2. Like we did in that other leaderboard builder on the actual leaderboards tab, we are choosing the metric that we want to view, the time frame we want to view that metric for, and we're choosing how to rank the reps that are going to appear in this leaderboard. And as we select those, you can see them populate here. So for this one, we have revenue as our metric. The time frame is this month, and we're ranked by value. And in this example, we're just looking at one metric, but you can see here, we can select up to 5. So you can have a leaderboard of 5 metrics that you want to see. And we will choose who appears on this leaderboard. We can, again, just as the other example, show groups of users or scale us down to individual teams, in this case, the AEs or senior AEs. Whenever we are thinking about different ways to visualize the TV, value, of course, is one of those ways to rank, but we mentioned earlier percent to target and most improved rank. So just to elaborate on these a little bit, percent to target, as you can see here, it must match your activity and objective scores. What that's really saying is if you have a scorecard set up and you have metrics that are part of that scorecard and you want to visualize them on the TV, since you've already given Ambition a target for that metric for each rep, you can lean on that scorecard setup and show the context behind a rep's effort towards a specific metric. So in this other leaderboard we have, where we have Emily Cunningham with 75 calls today, based on her target for how many calls she should have in a day, that equates to 94% of her personal target. So there's a lot of opportunity here. If you are getting tired of seeing the same old reps on the top of your leaderboard because they are just your all-star players, we all know those people on our team. We've got a few here. There's unique ways to kind of get around that and show context behind the effort. So maybe Emily, in this case she is, but maybe Emily isn't always the heaviest caller, but based on her specific targets, maybe she's closer to that 100% of her target, and we can rank by that percent to target to kind of show that her progress towards her goals that are individual to her. And in the same way, if you do want to show, instead of that all-star rep that's always in first place, you actually want to highlight some of your reps that are making improvements over time. Most improved value and rank are great ways to do that. Most improved value looks like this slide here, where we're seeing the improvement month over month for these metrics. So Francisco is first here because he is the most improved. Based on his numbers last year, he has the most improvement from his previous month's effort. And so this is a helpful way to kind of visualize how reps are tracking this month compared to last month. It's the 7th of the month. He's 643 calls behind where he was at the end of last month, but he's going to see that number shrink and progress as he books more meetings, makes more calls, and sends more emails. That most improved month over month value is going to improve. And in the same way, we can do rank instead. So Francisco was 20th last month. He's now first. We would see a increase of 20 places on the leaderboard for most improved rank. So feel free and definitely feel encouraged to try out some of these different ways of visualizing leaderboards. Instead of just showing the same old value every time, show some of that context. Am I doing better than I did last month? Am I on pace for my targets, instead of just showing that raw value? And then one more unique way to use metrics are leaderboard slides on the TVs. Every TV slide we've seen so far has shown something positive, shown the leaders. And that is excellent for displaying on a TV to motivate reps and put in front of your team's eyes. But sometimes you want to be alerted when reps are off course. There are some ways to do that. So down here, when we're creating this TV slide, I want to highlight these two options right here: sort by highest and lowest, and include employees without data. To say include employees without data in another way, basically we're asking, should you include the zeros? It's default set to no, but most sales leaders want to know when a rep is at 0 calls and they should have been at 20. So you can toggle this to yes to make sure those zeros on your leaderboard do show up. And then crucially, if there are times that you want to say, make a leaderboard or a TV slide that's just for, leadership's eyes only, you might want to sort by lowest instead of highest so you can see which reps are off track or not where they should be on some of these metrics. An example of that one here is a slide like this one, where we have this week's lowest activity scores. So if I'm a manager of a team, I do want to know where are my team members lagging. I can see that Francisco is down in last place with that 37. I can know this Tuesday of the week and get in touch with Francisco and course correct ahead of time and do something about it. Coach him where he needs to be. And so I can lean on ambition for the recognition when reps are crushing it and excelling, but you can also use it for ways to know when reps are off course. So definitely jump into your TVs, use these as a really fun way to share those leaderboards out with your team, and let your ambition CSMs know if you have any questions. Awesome. Emma, I will kick it over to you to continue our talk about leaderboards today.
Great overview, Matt. Thank you so much for kicking off sharing all about leaderboards and a couple ways I can use them. When you were diving into TV or leaderboards on TVs, you said it was the most fun way to use leaderboards. I might disagree with that because
Can you one up that?
my first topic is leaderboard workflows, and I think those are pretty fun. So I'm going to share my screen and I
I
am going
have
to
to
talk.
agree with you.
Yes, they're pretty fun. How you can leverage leaderboards using workflows. So before I dive into the options and how to build them, I just want to show you when you are on a main landing page in Ambition, your workflows are on the left-hand navigation, a little lightning bolt workflows. Click here, it will take you here. Um, Now, depending on your permission level personally in Ambition, will kind of dictate what you see here. So I wanted to hop over to permissions really fast. Your admins can update these permissions. So if you don't see workflows on the left-hand nav or you go into workflows and you're not seeing what your neighbor is seeing, this is probably why. So by default, admins have the permission, they have all access workflows permissions, which means they can create workflows, but they can also edit other workflows. Now for managers, let's see, the default is that they can create workflows, but they can only edit workflows for subordinates. So you couldn't go over to, I couldn't go and edit Matt's workflows. But every organization is different. Some people nominate a subject matter expert and say, yes, we want you to have all the workflow power. You're going to build, edit, maintain workflows for the entire org. That's how you would adjust these permissions here. So I just wanted to call that out in case you go to this page and you're like, mine doesn't look anything like this. That would be why. But we're happy to help kind of figure out how to get the right settings for you. But I wanted to talk a little bit about a couple different ways that you can leverage workflow leaderboards. So for those of you who might not be familiar, workflows are automated notifications that can get sent to email, Slack, or Teams. Now, I want to say TVs, but actually our leaderboard workflows don't go to TVs. You create the TV slides just like Matt just showed us. So if you create a leaderboard workflow, it can go to email, Slack, or Teams. And so a couple different things I want to show you. So the first type of leaderboard that I want to show you is just your general activity score leaderboard. And this is an example of what it would look like if it came across your email. So you're going to get a very simple top to bottom rank of activity score performance. So this would be kind of the output. And I want to show you what it would look like if you were to create one of these. So in this example, it is an org-wide today's activity scores. So when you're building these workflows, you're going to put in all the details, what do we call the workflow, etc. For these leaderboard settings, this is where you get to fine tune exactly what you're looking for. So activity score, super common one, very all-encompassing of what a rep's day-to-day might be like. So this could be a great starting point if your organization leverages activity score. But you can choose any metric that you have in Ambition. So you just select from the drop down here, whatever metric, and then whatever time frame. Again, if you're leveraging activity score as a daily score, then the today time frame, great option. If it's a weekly score, you can look at this week. Whoops. And then like Matt just showed, you have those different rank by options. So value is going to show you highest activity score to lowest activity score. But then if we dig deeper into the metrics that are on the activity score, like calls or emails, maybe you want to do that percent to target. So maybe my daily call target is 10, Matt's is 20. We don't necessarily want to know who's made more calls. We want to know who is furthest on track to hitting their personal target. So we can use percent to target that way. And then also the most improved value and rank, who is improving. Um, I, in my opinion, the most improved value and rank, those ones are super beneficial as you start to zoom out and look at larger time frames, because then you can start to look at kind of overall performance trends. Whereas value, stuff like that is really good to know in the moment on the shorter time frames, today, this week, etc. This is optional, but it is actually really cool. So for this, we are saying we only want people to show up on this leaderboard if their activity score is greater than 1. What is cool about this is you can actually do something like, I actually only want people to show up on this leaderboard if they're greater than or equal to 50. So I know if they're not on this board, they didn't even achieve 50% of what their daily or weekly expectation was. So you can get really fine-tuned with these leaderboard settings. I'll show you in a couple examples ahead ways that you can kind of flip and do the inverse of that, which is pretty cool. So this one, as you can see, is an org-wide leaderboard. So we just want to show all employees. So employees, select all employees. I'm going to show you in the next example a different variation of this. And then number of results. Let's say this org-wide activity score, there's 100 reps. You can show all 100 if you want. You get to dictate how many people show up on this leaderboard, or you can just show the top 10, or you can just show number 1, which I feel like this is a really cool option. If you just want to do a highlight number 1, you can do that here and kind of automate who's the best of the day, best of the week, best of the month. We only want to see number 1. I think that's a pretty cool way to automate that. Again, if we want to kind of do that inverted shame naughty list, you can sort lowest to highest. So this would actually be showing the bottom 10 of the daily activity score instead of the top 10. And then also pretty important is determining if you want employees to show up on the leaderboard that have no data. So for example, we could even decide not to have an operator on this. So there's no parameters. Everyone will be on this leaderboard, but you get to decide, do we want people with zeros to appear on this leaderboard? Me as a leader, I think I would want to know if there are people on my team that have a 0 at their activity score for the day, because I don't want the person at the bottom of the leaderboard to actually not be the bottom, because the zeros aren't showing. So I like to have the zeros, but sometimes it's not relevant, so you can choose to not include them. And then always send notifications. So if no one qualifies for the leaderboard and you have it toggled to no, then the notification won't go off blank. But if you have it toggled to yes, then even if no one qualified to appear on the leaderboard based on your settings, it would still send off a notification. It would just be blank. Again, all configurable, up to you. I always tell people to go through, set these up to the best of your ability and let it run a few times, and you can always come back and edit them and change them around and tweak them. Highly recommended. You can customize a little message to go along with your leaderboard, add an image, add a GIF, whatever you want. All right, next is the recurrence. So how often do we want today's activity score leaders to go off? And so we established when this would start. So this is a very old leaderboard all the way back to 2023. But this is going to go off at 1 p.m. and we want it to occur every single day. And we want it to never end. So every single day at 1 p.m., this goes off. Since we're here on training webinar session deep dive, One pro tip I would call out, if you're a traditional company that works Monday through Friday, you don't really work Saturdays or Sundays, we don't want those notifications to go off. Something you can actually do to avoid any leaderboards from ever going out over the weekend is, instead of repeats every day, do repeats every week. And you can see underneath it, it says specific days of the week. And you can select, we only want this to go out on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And the way it captures today is back in leaderboard settings. So we're still looking at the daily time frame for the activity score, but we're just saying this goes out weekly on these days. So whereas if you do the repeats every one day at 1 p.m., truly every single day, Saturdays, Sundays, it's going to go out, which works for some organizations that have a 7-day cycle with a lot of different employees. But for those orgs that maybe want to, not send people notifications on the weekend, this is a pro tip, something you can try. When we start thinking about the advanced kind of usage of this, and maybe you want to recognize number one, you could do something like last month. I want to look at number one from last month for activity score, and I want that to go out on the first, repeats every month on the first day of the month. So on the first day of every month at, let's say, 9 a.m., we want a leaderboard of the number one activity score contributor from the previous month. So again, a really easy way to automate number one or the top 5 or whatever makes sense for your organization. You can do this for, last week. And maybe it goes out. Oh, we're all the way back in 2023. We'll do Monday at 9, and we want it to repeat every week on Monday at 9, looking at last week. So you can get really creative of when these go out, and they don't have to reference the time frame they're currently in. They can reference last week, last month, just to help make that easy on you. All right. And last section, actions. Where is this going to go? You can send it to your Slack channels. You can send it to Teams. You can send it to email. When we start talking about the other types of leaderboards you can do, I always say, tip is, if it's a positive leaderboard, shout it from the rooftops, share it everywhere. Make sure your reps know that you're recognizing them. Make sure they see it. If it's one of those inverted leaderboards that are more of like a naughty list, maybe you just send that to yourself and you choose how to digest the information and act upon it. You don't want to necessarily blast people and make people feel, uncomfortable. That's just my recommendation. Every organization's different. But wanted to show you, how can we take this org-wide activity score leaderboard and make it specific for your team? So the next example I have is SDR's today's activity score leader. So it's the exact same leaderboard, but the only difference is the employees selected are employees within a specific group, and we have the SDRs selected. So you can take any of those like big org-wide leaderboards and trim them down for your team. And maybe in the notification section, it goes to just your team's private channel, team huddle channel. It's not going out to the whole organization, making things noisy. I could make a activity score leaderboard for Emma's team and just have it sent to my team. So options there. All right. Now a couple creative ways that you can use leaderboards. So this is the classic ambition example, 10 calls by 10 a.m. And so what we're trying to do here is help managers know if by 10 a.m. or by a kind of early time frame in the day, are my reps already on track to be successful today, or do I need to intervene? We're all about early interference, and we don't want you looking at yet the numbers for today, tomorrow, because it's too late to do anything about it. But we want you to know by 10 a.m. or by noon or by 1 p.m., whatever that looks like for you, is my team on track? So our classic example is 10 calls by 10 a.m. So in the settings, you'll select the metric. We've got calls for today. And we want to see anyone on this leaderboard that is less than 10 calls for today. And this is where the number of results is helpful, because if you have a large team, you want to make sure that we're filtering enough results that can capture anyone who might qualify to be on this naughty list leaderboard. So if you've got 300 reps, maybe just to be safe, you do 400 results on the leaderboard, and maybe that's an email that goes to you. Hopefully all your reps are hitting their calls by 10 a.m. But you'll want to make sure that you're kind of allowing the right number of results to come through. And then for recurrence, you would just select the time 10 a.m. So I want a leaderboard at 10 a.m. every single day. Or if you're a pro, you can do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I want a leaderboard every single day showing me anyone on these teams that does not have, or that has less than 10 calls. This is also important. They include records without data. So I also want to know if there's anyone who's made 0 calls. So I would need to make sure that's toggled on, because with this toggled off, it would show me anyone with 1 through 10 dials for the day, or 1 through 9 dials for the day. This toggles on. This shows me also people who have not made a single call, and I definitely want them on that leaderboard. This is one that, again, I've seen people blast this out in the Slack channels. I think every company's culture is slightly different. This would be something maybe I'd send to myself, and then I'd start kind of assessing who I need to call, who I need to touch base with, to make sure that later on in the day, when that end of the day activities for a leaderboard comes out, that these people are at the top of it. Kind of the same concept here. This is 50% attainment for the month. Or less than 50% attainment from the month. So what you would want to do is look at the metric for this month, but in the recurrence, you could set this to go out at mid-month. So I want to know on the 15th of each month, at the middle of every month, who is not yet at 50% to their target, because that tells me we've got half a month left to get more than halfway there. And that might be a challenge. So it's time to intervene. It's time to really get ahead of things. You could even adjust this to say, the 15th maybe is too late. I want to know if by the 12th that someone isn't yet at 15 or 50% all the way there. So you can edit that to whatever you want it to be. But I think this is another really good creative way to alert you as a leader. Do I need to get ahead of something? Do I need to call someone and put a plan together? Same exact leaderboard here, but the only difference is we are looking at employees within a specific group, Melody's team. So you can create those kind of org-wide umbrella workflows and then create them for specific teams if that is more impactful. Yep, and I think this one's kind of same old stuff, not to go over the same thing over and over again, which is a couple options. Lunchtime leaderboard. So it's kind of, this is that beginning of the day indicator of performance. Lunchtime, we're looking at a middle of the day leaderboard. And then at the end of the day, we got the end of the day wrap up. So a lot of different ways you can use the leaderboards creatively, again, to recognize your very tip-top performers of maybe the previous month or previous week. You can also indicate to yourself early in the day if people aren't on track to have a great day. So lots of options. Last thing, really quickly, another way that you can use a leaderboard. So on any, I'm going to go to one of my managers. So on any metrics tab, I hope everyone here is familiar with the metrics tab. If you're on the metrics tab, either on your manager dashboard or if your reps are on their dashboard, on all of the metric cards here, you have a link out to a leaderboard. So it's a really quick and easy one-click, hey, this is Carson's team. I want to look at a leaderboard for emails, and I can see how Carson's team is ranking against all the other teams in the organization. Or maybe, let's see, if you're an employee, I want to see where I rank in appointments set in the organization. So you can just, in that one click, go to the leaderboard for that specific metric and also for that time frame. So by default, it's looking at today, but if I went to this month and clicked leaderboard, it would show me the leaderboard for this month. So pretty cool. Um, awesome. So two other ways you can use leaderboards, and then Matt has a fun Easter egg for us.
Yes, who does not love a shortcut hiding in plain sight? And that's exactly what I've got for us. For all you managers out there, anytime that you just want a quick link to look at your team, we showed before you can go to the leaderboards tab and then you can set up your saved filters and all of that. When you go to the leaderboards tab, it is not filtered to your team. It's not filtered for any other metric except for activity score for today. But hidden just behind one click is a fast track to get you a leaderboard for your team. So we're on Carson Suarez manager dashboard here. He has a team of 15 AEs. So we can click, just like we always do on this manager dashboard, contributors and see all of our reps here. If only there were a way to say, oh, how are these 15 reps doing today? Well, right here is a button that lets us do exactly that. So officially, this button is the View on Leaderboard button. You get there again, contributors, click View on Leaderboard, and it is going to show those 15 people on the activity score for today. So one click away, you've got a quick pulse check for how my team is doing. So not a bad habit to get into. Log into Ambition for the first time for the day or the week, jump to contributors, click this View on Leaderboard button, and I right away know how the team is doing. Outside of those automated workflows, outside of that TV that refreshes, this is right here, ready for me, ready to go. And I can shout Yolanda out for crushing it, and I can maybe check in with Caleb to see how he's doing, if he needs any help. So have to agree, though, Emma, the workflows are the most fun part, maybe of all of Ambition. And as a former SDR myself, I lived and died by those workflows, whether it was setting a GIF for something to get shouted out on, or knowing like I'm 5 minutes away from noon. I am not on that leaderboard. Let me crank out some quality calls here and get on that leaderboard. And it just nudges reps in the right direction and changes that behavior. With the carrot instead of the stick. The opportunity to get recognized, especially when you're sharing those leaderboards in public spaces and someone maybe senior in the organization can see that, drop an emoji, drop a comment, shout out a rep for doing a good job. As a former rep, that was like candy in the morning and kept me going. So thanks for sharing those workflows, Emma. And this is a super easy Easter egg and candy for you all managers out there wanting to grab a quick leaderboard in Ambition.
Awesome, Matt. I am like not to not to just totally backtrack, but while you were sharing that, I thought of something else that I think might be helpful in the workflows section. So if you're, in that little lightning button workflows and you've got your scheduled leaderboard workflow, one other pro tip is these little three dots. If you click that, you can run the scheduled leaderboard in real time. So maybe this leaderboard is scheduled to run at 6 p.m. every end of the day to show the activity leaderboards or the activity leaders for the whole org. Well, maybe it's noon and I'm like, you know what? I want to see where everyone is right now. I'm going to come here, click the three dots, run, and that's going to push this leaderboard to wherever the notification settings have been selected. So once you have a leaderboard scheduled, you can also come and ad hoc run them too, which is cool. Awesome. So that concludes our section on leaderboards. I did want to run over two quick product releases that came out in December. A lot of exciting stuff coming this year. And yeah, we're excited to share more with you, but just wanted to make sure these two things are on your radar because they can be helpful. So in coaching, if you go to coaching and manage, we have updated how the templates are organized and they are now unified. So instead of within check-ins or within cadences having a separate templates tab, we now have a unified templates tab that can be found here on the manage coaching page. And you can see all templates here, and all templates are available for all types of coaching now. So it's a really unlocked experience. But if you're looking for your templates and you're in programs and you're, where did my templates button go? It's right over here. They all live here now. Yay. Very easy. And then the other thing I want to show you that's a real exciting new feature. This is especially shout out to our admins, our technical administrators. So over in administration and users, it takes you to the user directory. We now have a new hierarchy tab. And this really helps you unpack the user to manager, to senior manager, to director tree of hierarchy that gets built within Ambition, so that you can easily make adjustments. So for example, we've got Amber here, and she doesn't have any direct reports. So, Anne can get collapsed or expanded, but Amber doesn't have anyone. And so I can easily here assign Amber direct reports because she has that manager permission, or I can assign a manager to her. So either one. You can also easily, Bennett rolls up to Beatrice. You can also edit that relationship. You can assign a new manager, a lot of different things that you can do here, but you can see kind of how all these users relate to each other. You can also search for a specific person, Bennett, and it will take you right to that person so you can see who they're rolling up to. So not only are you able to visualize that kind of nested hierarchy, but you can edit, you can easily find people. And so again, that lives over in administration and users, where you go for the user directory and hierarchy. Really excited to have introduced that. Okay, that's the end of our planned content. I know we only have about 15 minutes left. We're happy to stay over and help. Does anyone have any questions or any topics they wanted to dive into today? Please feel free to put them in the chat, put them in the Q&A. We'll give it a few more minutes. Yeah, I know back in my IC days, I really was, I had my eye on that 5 o'clock timestamp because I knew that's when our leaderboard was going out. And I was like, I cannot be the one to not make the leaderboard. It really is so
You don't want to
motivating.
miss it. Yeah.
No, because everyone sees that. It's a good motivator. Cool. Well, I don't think we have any questions. If you did have questions, feel free to reach out to me, to Matt, to your CSM, to our support team. We're happy to help. Again, our next session is going to be in February on the metrics tab. We're super excited for that one. And we'll see you again soon. We'll reach out with the recording and all of the content from today. And yeah, talk soon. Thanks,
Awesome.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.